Rise, warrior.
Welcome to the channel. I'm Hayes. I talk movies all day. Sometimes I'll talk about games, so subscribe right now if you want to be entertained. And today, I want to talk about 3 cheap Steam games that I think you should definitely check out. Now, I've mentioned before that at this stage in my life, I've gravitated more towards older and/or cheaper games. But it occurs to me that while most people know about Far Cry 3, not as many people would know about some of these games. Also, I am aware that when you dive into the budget and super budget side of Steam, it can be very hit or miss. And let's be honest, probably more miss than hit. I mean, sure, there are definitely some hidden treasures, but there is also a lot of absolute garbage that makes you want to slap whoever made it. So I figured perhaps I can point you in the right direction of some good ones. Because at the end of the day, don't matter how cheap it is, ain't nobody trying to spend any kind of money on trash. Alright, so the first game I want to talk about is called Rescue Operation. It was released in 2021 by Lausch Studio and currently goes for £3.39. I'm guessing the people, or probably the person who made this game, English isn't their first language. That's not an issue, of course. Just saying, if you're gonna write your game description in a language you don't fully understand, maybe get someone to proofread it first. The game will follow the scenario of the game. Anyway, poor grammar aside, the game is pretty solid. I think it's fair to say it's a pretty generic first-person shooter and definitely has some awkward control moments. But in the end, it's a really enjoyable experience. You can probably get through it in around 3 to 5 hours. There were some challenging parts, but I think if you've played action first-person shooters before, you can probably breeze through most, if not all of it. I'd recommend this to FPS fans and anyone looking for a cool action game that ain't gonna make them late for work. Alright, next let's talk about Volgarr the Viking, released in 2013 by Crazy Viking Studios. This game currently goes for £6.99 and considering you'll probably never complete it, totally worth it. The cool thing about Volgarr is that it takes a very 16-bit era approach to gaming. It's mad hard and it gets harder and harder as you go along, but just so it doesn't piss you off too much, you don't have to start all over again when you lose all your lives. You can just skip ahead to the last level that you were on. However, just to piss off the completionists out there, if you did that, you'll miss out on some of the achievements. HowLongToBeat.com says this game takes around 9.5 hours to get through, but unfortunately it doesn't say how many swear words you'll be shouting while wanting to throw your controller across the room, but won't because them things cost like £50 to replace. Now me, I didn't complete it. I got a few levels in before I psychologically tapped out, but I do like to boot it up every now and then just to remind myself that I'm not as good at these things like I used to be back in that actual 16-bit era. And lastly, let's talk about 20 Minutes Till Dawn, released in 2023 by Erabits and Flan. This game goes for £4.29 and is quite possibly the best £4.29 you'll spend on anything that isn't a crosstown donut. Actually, crosstown donuts cost more than £4.29, but they're so good. I ain't even sponsored by them, but if anyone from Crosstown Donuts wants to send me a free donut and coffee voucher, I'd take that. 20 Minutes Till Dawn is a twin-stick shooter where you have to survive waves of enemies for 20 minutes. Sounds simple enough, right? Except of course it isn't. As the game progresses, you get more and varied enemy types that have a variety of different attacks and a variety of ways to defeat them, all while trying to dodge and shoot, or swing. You get a choice of temporary power-ups while playing. You also earn runes which you can use to unlock permanent power-ups, different weapons, and more characters. And each character has different weapons and attributes, which means you can have a variety of playstyles depending on your choices and what gets offered to you. Basically, you get a lot out of this £4.29. Now, I do have one gripe with this game, and that is some of the weapons require you to shoot or swing by tapping the trigger button. And because there's often a lot of enemies on screen, you end up tapping the button a lot of times in a pretty short amount of time, and that makes my finger hurt. To be fair, that could just be a me thing, but for anyone who routinely has issues with certain games that cause discomfort, then that's something to consider. And to be fair, you don't have to tap to shoot, you can just press and hold, but I find that affects my strategy. But to be fair, there are a lot of character and weapon choices, so chances are you can find one that allows you to play your way without feeling like you gotta keep rubbing your hands with DPs all the time. Anyway, that's what I think of those 3 cheap Steam games. What do you think of those 3 cheap Steam games? Let me know down below, and while you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a suggestion if you don't mind.